Hi, Angel here.
And Vampyresskiss. This morning we're in Douglas, Arizona, and we're in the Cavalry Cemetery, and we're at John Slaughter's grave. Now, he may not sound too famous to people. I'm going to do a little reading about him, and then you'll see exactly the part he played in the Old West. Here's a picture of him when he was older. Okay, so here we go. John Slaughter was one of the many Texas cattlemen who drove their herds to the Virgin Ranges of Arizona in the 1870s. He settled in Cochise County, eventually bought the historic San Bernardino Ranch that straddled the Mexican border and southeast Arizona during the turbulent years following the Cochise County Wars that pitted the Earp brothers and Doc Holliday against the cowboys. That's in parentheses. Slaughter was elected sheriff of Cochise County. He took a no-nonsense attitude towards cattle rustlers and issued a warning: get out or get shot. Most took his advice and left the county. Slaughter was born in Louisiana in 1841 and was brought to the Republic of Texas as an infant. His father, Ben, was a rancher gathering wild longhorns in the brush country. John grew up on the Texas frontier, had several brushes with the Comanche. While still a young man, he fought for the Confederate Army in the Civil War, but most of the action was against the Indians. He was also a Texas Ranger during the Indian Wars. In the early 1870s, he began ranching in New Mexico. It was said his herd grew in a manner of contrary to the biological laws of nature. It's a nice way of saying he might have put his brand on anybody else's cows. He was a thief. Okay. Slaughter was charged with murder in 1876 following the killing of Bitter Creek Barney Gallagher in New Mexico. Trouble started between the two began in the fall of 76 when Slaughter caught Gallagher cheating during a poker game at the Commerce in San Antonio. Gallagher and a man named Boyd followed Slaughter to Chisholm's ranch where Slaughter's herd was grazing. Gallagher had either pilfered some of Slaughter's cows or was planning to. He warned the outlaw to take tracks, but a few days later Gallagher and Boyd returned to Slaughter's camp, riding in at a lop. Gallagher fired his shotgun at Slaughter and missed. Slaughter aimed with his Winchester, fired Slaughter and didn't. That doesn't even make any sense. The repentant Gallagher's last words were, "I needed killing 20 years ago anyway." That's good. I like that. He claimed self-defense, accusing Gallagher of plotting to kill him over a gambling fight. He was arrested, but soon released. After his first wife died, Slaughter married 19-year-old Cora Viola Howell. The two met while driving a herd of cattle to Arizona in 1879. Although he was much older, the two were attracted to each other, and each day John moved his herd of cattle closer to Howell's herd. Finally, with her parents' permission, they stopped at a small town in Tuscaloosa, New Mexico, and tied the knot. The Slaughters and the Howells, now joined in wedlock, joined their herds and drove them into Arizona. They settled in the San Pedro River Valley south of Tombstone, where they built her a mansion for the time. It had 2 rooms, most homes only had one room. The outer walls were juniper pickets and the floors were made of adobe. The roof was also made of juniper poles covered with earth. Wow, that was a mansion back then. Wow, that says a lot. In 1884, John Slaughter bought the famed San Bernardino Ranch. He allowed the Apache to slaughter a steer for food during the Geronimo campaign. He served as an Army scout for General George Crook. He sat in the famous photograph of Geronimo surrendering to the general many years later. In captivity, the Apache war chief said if he could do one thing, it would be to go back to Arizona and kill John Slaughter right on Geronimo. Sorry about that. In 1886, he was elected Sheriff of Cochise County, at the time considered a haven for outlaws and cattle rustlers. Armed with a shotgun, Slaughter spent the next 4 years ridding the county of dangerous desperados. After his term was up, he continued to act as deputy sheriff until his death in 1922. Slaughter continued to battle outlawry along the Mexican border. In 1898, he gunned down Peg Leg Finnery, and a year later he killed a gambler named Little Bob Stevens. Stevens had held up a roulette game in Tombstone. In 1901, Slaughter, now 60 years old, shot and killed an outlaw who'd murdered a young woman along with her son and daughter for $300. When Pancho Villa's army was ravaging the ranches along the border, John Slaughter, now in his 70s, boldly encountered the bandit chieftain and ordered him off his land. Villa did as he was told. John Slaughter had his last gunfight in 1922 when he and Viola drove off a band of bandits. He was 81 at the time. It took men and women with bark on to survive the Arizona frontier. So that's the story of John Slaughter. He, I don't know. I think he was kind of, I don't know how else to say that. I'm not real happy that he had anything to do with Geronimo. That does not make me happy at all. But I guess you can't change history. So this is where he's buried, and he's got the ranch that's near here that still bears his name is an actual museum. But we're not going to go to that today. But I thought he was kind of a colorful character, and that's why we drove down here, and I said we should do a little video on him. Sorry for the bad reading. One thing I would like to point out, though, in this cemetery, there is a lot of Masons in here. I mean, that was the same way in the cemetery where Pat Garrett was. There was a lot of Masons. I mean, that must have been a huge thing back in, the early part of the settling of this territory. So, this is Vampyresskiss.
An angel.
Video out.